Oh, there's one story I feel like I have not really told a lot of people. So let me tell you because you're my friend and I'm going to give you exclusive. If I can say something is excellent, it would be that I gave it my best. But not only did I give it my best, is that when it's compared across, like first, it must deliver on the thing that it's supposed to with both grace and functionality. Like it must deliver. Later in life, I found out that what had really happened that day was a group of women had asked her when is she going to give birth to an actual child, and she's like, I have two children, and they're like, no, you don't have a child until you have a boy. Don't fake it till you make it. Instead, start where you are with what you have. Decide very early on, because truly what branding is this is where you are now, this is where you want to get to, and branding is just that journey, the bridge that takes you there. One of the biggest lessons from that for me, I think I say this all the time, is you have a goal when you're building a company. You have dreams and there are things that you say, this is what we hope for. But then there could be someone who could accelerate that dream so much faster. And sometimes what stops us founders from making that decision could be capitalism.
Today's guest is Blessing Abeng, who, by the way, has asked me to introduce her as my friend. However, I will not be doing her justice, especially to my audience, if I do not introduce her properly. Blessing Abeng is a branding and communications expert. She was once the CMO and the co-founder of a digital tech startup, Disha, that caught the attention of an African unicorn, Flutterwave, leading to a successful acquisition. She was also the co-founder and director of communications at Ingressive for Good. Hi, Blessing. Nice to see you.
Lovely to be here as well. I think the most important introduction that I got here was the fact that I'm Dayo's friend, as it was sticking to that.
I thought it would make sense to start from the call you got in 2020 by the Disha founder, asking you to not just be the CMO, but a co-founder.
So I think that was such an interesting story because I had just come back from San Francisco. I was invited to come speak, and because then I had built this community of 10,000 entrepreneurs, they wanted to hear my point of view. What was it that entrepreneurs needed, especially tech entrepreneurs? How can we funnel more funding to startups? But what would that look like? So I was speaking and I was helping people see that, by investing in Africa, you're not it's not charity. It's not, you will get returns. There are great companies out there and stuff. And at this time in Lagos, I know that funding was difficult. I mean, if you hear you know this better than anyone. If you hear the pay stack stories and all of that, raising 25K was difficult. So it wasn't necessarily a walk in the park, but I was just really glad to be a voice at somewhere as important as Silicon Valley at that time. So Evans had texted me and said, listen, where are you? I said, I'm on my way back. I think COVID was drawing closer. Yeah, I think COVID was drawing closer. And I just literally landed in my house and carried my bag and went to the Disha office straight because they had summoned me. But this was not abnormal because I was one of the first users of Disha. I was one of the first people who paid the annual fee to use the product, the annual subscription rather. I also was part of the people they would reach out to and say, come and see what we've built. What are your thoughts? What is your feedback? What can we do better? And I would do that and they'll give us really nice snacks. We'll play games. It was always fun. So I think they already knew that I had the heart for the product. And it was just, I was that person that they would call to, pick my brain and all of that. So when I got to the office that day, they said, Blessing, we have built this product to this point, but we need someone who can help us get it to the people who really need it. We haven't grown since we started. Very few people are using this product, and we think that if more people knew about it, more people would use it. So I was like, okay. And they said they unanimously decided that person to help them move to the next phase would be me. So I was like, unanimously, that is a big compliment. Thank you. And so they were like, yeah. And I think I wasn't going to get paid in terms of monthly salaries or anything, but I was okay with that. I really loved the product and I was happy to just contribute my quota. And I said I would think about it. I did think about it. I did say yes. I started literally the next week. I don't think it took that long. So I started the next week and we made a couple of changes. Things went really great. And next thing you know, month on month, we're getting at least 100% month on month growth, which was really impressive, being that we weren't spending a lot of money
Yeah.
doing any marketing. Yeah.
Wow. Just two things I wanted to pick from what you just said. So first of all, you were a user.
Yeah,
So
I was.
what drove you to use Disha? What was it about them that you found very useful for you?
So I think I loved the people of Quigital. I liked the excellence with which they designed products.
So
Or
was Credital part of Disha or
so
was it?
Quigital was literally an owner in Disha at the time because all of the resources that we were using to build Disha, because it was completely bootstrapped, came from Quigital. And it was the Credital founders that had come together to build Disha. So it only made sense, right? But at this time, I had recommended Credital for some jobs. They had delivered very well. I was proud. I liked the quality of work that they consistently put out. I liked the specific things about them that I liked as people, especially when it came to their work. And so I didn't have any reason to withhold. And that specific tool, I think if people remember back then, link in bios were boring. They were very boring. Everybody just had like buttons, which makes sense because that's really all you need. But as creators, it's like we want to show imagery, we want to show videos, we want to be diverse, like we want to be able to express ourselves in multiple ways. Not everybody wants to just click buttons on text. And so it made sense. And I liked the diversity of it. So I guess I used it because it was a different product. It gave me more ways to express myself. I also used it because I believed in the Credital team. And I believed in the people behind it. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember Credital and I really loved their designs back in
Mm,
the day.
yeah.
But yeah, the second thing I wanted to ask you about was that you had to think about it
Mhm.
before you made that decision. What was the thought process like at that particular time in your life?
So I think for me, right, I like to do things I would be excellent at. Like I need to know, and that doesn't mean that the output eventually will be excellent. I just need to know that I can put my best into it and I wouldn't feel regret that there was something missing. I needed to know if I had the time to be able to commit, if I was the best person to commit, even if they thought I was the best person, was I truly the best person? Um, did I have space for it in my life at that time? Was I sure that my personal things will not come in the way or, things like that? So those were true considerations that I had while deciding. I think Evans used to make a joke. Evans, one of the founders, used to make a joke that if he would say things like, "Oh, when I get my house, you're going to be the one to decorate it because I really like your point of view and I like how you get me." And then he used to say things like, "Oh, when I do my wedding, because of how nice your wedding was, I want you to be the one to sort of plan my wedding for me." So he used to have all this like interesting jokes about my point of view, and I think that they were true. So yeah, I just needed to be sure that I could bring that point of view. Sorry. I just needed to be sure that I could bring that point of view to the work and just do my best to the best of my ability. And I also, as I said, I wasn't taking any compensation for that. I needed to evaluate exactly where they were. And again, if I was the best person to move them to point B. And I
Yeah.
was able to ascertain that and I was okay with it. Once we all came to the table and said, okay, this is a fair contract, this is what makes sense. And we were able to come to a very good agreement. And that,
Did you enjoy your time there?
of course, I did. What I did, I think that building Disha was so fun. It made me work with tech people a lot, which I used to, but this was a lot more in it. And I did tell them that even if I had tech sensibilities, right? So I used to know how to build websites. I knew how to, I wouldn't say code completely, but I could, write some code and I could do all of those things. I would always remove myself from that process and say that I'm not going to do this, because when you are techie, you can explain, like, you understand why something is, like, you get it. You get why it's impossible. But when you now come from, like, I'm a comms person, I know what I want. I want this button to be here because that's what makes sense. If I was thinking from a technical point of view, there's a chance that to get that button to move, the stress is not worth such a little shift. Ever, for a comms person or for someone who is interacting with the customers, it might be worth everything. I remember when I said, why don't we have a duplicate button? And it was like, oh, why didn't we think of that? Because, like, duplicate would have made everything so much easier. I want to duplicate a button. I want to duplicate an image. I've already done it. I just need to duplicate it. Or when we discussed and we're like, oh, we need to have templates and things like that, right? So just being able to be oblivious. I wasn't oblivious, but I pretended to be oblivious in favor of the customer. And that was a good shift for the organization as well. It also helped that I could interpret the techie words into not so techie things that made sense to the customers, especially creators. One of the core things I think I added as value to the organization was the messaging. So back then, Disha used to be known as a no-code tool for creators or something like that. And it made sense to the technical people, made sense to me as well, but to a normal creator, that doesn't mean much, especially because no code and code didn't really mean much as well to a creator. And so we were like, what is this tool helping people truly do? And at the time, people were using it to make websites, one-page sites, resumes, really interesting things, especially because we had the HTML part of things enabled, right? And so I was like, what if we said Disha is a tool that helps creators build one-page sites in less than 15 minutes? You directly say clearly what this tool is doing, and somebody can decide, is this what I want or is this what I do not want? And that made a big shift. It made it easier for creators to tell other creators about what Disha was doing. Also made it easier for us to transcend from being a link in bio tool to being a one-page site tool. And that shift was also very helpful as well. So I did enjoy my time there to a very good extent. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I mean, it shows why they wanted you. Anyways, you
Yeah.
said something earlier about excellence, and I had something here which is so funny about excellence. But we'll come back to that. But before we come back to that, let's talk about the acquisition process, right? How the hell did that happen? Like, how do you get Flutterwave interested in Disha? Where were you at that particular time? You know, what was the thought process behind that?
So have you seen Vantage Points? You know how, like, in Vantage Points, different people's vantage points are happening. Yeah, exactly. I think that's very similar to what happened to us, because I think, and I don't know if my memory is serving me right, but I think um, Flutterwave had reached out to us because the community had rallied around Disha. Because remember, one of the superpowers that Disha had, and I don't know if you know this, but one of the biggest superpowers we had was the community. Had such a fantastic community of creators. We would trend. People would talk about us. We would do the most random things. People would talk about our campaigns. And people just really liked the product. So I think people had rallied on Twitter and tagged a bunch of people. I think Flutterwave was one of them. And so I always say that nobody can truly take credit for our acquisition outside of our actual users and creators, our community. So they got GB's attention, and I think GB had reached out and said, would like to invest in this company, like, really love what you guys are doing, would really love to invest and just be like, help take it to the next level. And I do remember being on a call with GB, but at the same time, someone who used to work at Google had reached out to me privately. They wanted me to work with them, and I was like, no. And then they said, they would like what they're building. They think Disha could accelerate it, so they wanted to acquire Disha. I think GB made us an offer, but the offer felt too low to me. But when this Google person reached out, the offer was a lot higher.
Much higher.
Yeah, so I just reached back out to GB and said, I think I must have called him, and I said, hi, we have this offer from XYZ person. Do you want to match that? I think it's a fair enough offer compared to what you're offering in the past. And he's like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead with it.
Oh.
And so he eventually did another call, and then everybody was fine with terms. And then he acquired the company through, of course, Flutterwave. And it made sense for Flutterwave at the time because a lot of the people that they were serving were SMEs. And SMEs need platforms to be able to sell what they were doing. There was no need for them to have to build a tool when they can just buy a tool for way less and then put it there. People already knew the tool. So the acquisition process, the onboarding process, all that would not be as crazy. But one of the biggest lessons from that for me, I think I say this all the time, is you have a goal when you're building a company. You have dreams, and there are things that you say, this is what we hope for. But then there could be someone who could accelerate that dream so much faster. And sometimes what stops us founders from making that decision could be capitalism, could be what we plan to gain. But there could also be, what does your customer gain by you, seeding it to someone else? So Flutterwave helped us get to people so much faster, so much more people who needed it, and those people were able to use it to the best of their ability. I think they must have tripled or doubled our users in less than a year. So it didn't even shake their body to do it. Do you get what I mean? So I was really excited that happened and more people were able to experience the beauty of what Disha was. Yeah.
Lovely. Let's take it back to the very beginning.
Okay.
So this is 1994, right?
Circa.
In Jos, which I didn't realize that you were born in Jos, actually.
Oh, really?
But you are also from Cross River State, right? So what is your earliest memory of growing up and your childhood? Like, paint a picture of what Blessing was growing up.
Oh my God. I feel like I don't even have a choice. I have a bunch of pictures because my mother keeps pictures, and then every opportunity she gets to tell me stories about those pictures. And then we had this family that would come through and give me more context about what's going on in the picture. I mean, this is not what you asked me, but recently I was with my mom and my dad's brother, and they were talking about how I said that I wasn't going to be in my father's house until I'm 18. That the least I can be there is 20. That at 20, I must have left my parents. And I was like, oh, I don't remember that. I do remember always clearly stating that that's my father's house, that's my parents' house, that's my mother's house. I never just claimed the house. I would never say I'm going back to my house. I just always said their house. And then just knowing that I was able to do that before 18, it's just significant. But then let me answer your question. So early memory, I remember going to a school before I was a year.
What?
Now, this is really crazy. This is so crazy. I remember it because I don't know how our brains work in very weird ways, but I do remember being in a school in front of a teacher with other students. I could barely walk, but I was in school. But I didn't have the full picture of it until my mom showed me an actual picture of me with the school uniform of that specific school. What had happened was the school was really close to our house in Jos. And my mom says I started speaking before I was 6 months old. Really crazy to me.
Wow.
But it's the fact. Many people have confirmed this to my embarrassment. I just what was I saying?
What were you saying exactly?
What was I saying? clearly before I was 6 months old, I was speaking. And then after I was 6 months, I started to say I wanted to go to school. Like I wanted to go to that school because I could hear what they were teaching the students. I don't know, for some reason, I could articulate some things. And sometimes I would actually make a run for it and try to go to the school. So eventually, I cried one day so much that they took me to the school so I could just see. And then I encountered the headmistress who said, you know what, we'll just make a tiny uniform for her. And you know that I'm tiny now, Dio. You already know that I'm tiny now. So you can imagine how tiny I was if I was 1 year. Like, you can just imagine how little. And they made a school uniform for me and made me sit in class. I didn't have to pay school fees or anything. They were just really excited that I was excited about education, and they just put me there. So yeah, that's one of my earliest.
And just to be clear, you actually remember
Oh yeah,
that you wore that uniform. Is
yes,
that what you're saying?
I do.
Wow.
I remember the uniform. I remember the teacher. I remember the class. I just didn't remember like how I got there. And so they pieced it all together and then showed me an actual picture of me. I don't have the picture, but they showed me the actual picture of me being there. Blah, blah. And I was like, oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I also have a crazy memory. Apparently, I used to argue, not argue per se, but like put my mouth in arguments and question things, just question. And I think a woman was walking by or something, and I must have said something she said, and it was apparently something that was not supposed to be said. So it made her embarrassed. But I was like, you shouldn't have told me if you weren't comfortable
Yeah.
with it being said out. So yeah, that's another one. I do remember also last one. While I lived in Jos, I remember our water, my mom boiling water for us to shower. And then almost immediately after she left and came back, the water was cold. And that's how cold Jos used to be back then. And I remember hailstorms. I remember like they're just really cute memories. I also remember us moving to Abuja, which was really, really cute as well. And how Abuja used to be arable land to an extent or barren land, and then how there was so much grass and sand. How Fulani people used to just come by and, sell fura the nunu with their outfits. It was so cool. Like they would just walk with their long hair and they would just walk past, and oh my God, that was such a good memory. And I would sometimes we'll sit with my mom and we'll stay outside of the compound and just see people pass, and we'll people watch and we'll gist about it and how they sell something called Ghana bread back then. I don't know. I have like really cute. Do you understand those really yellowish bread like this? And they will have this butter. My mom didn't like us eating it, but I mean, there was just so much you could do, right? Because if you cry to a certain extent, I mean, you should get your way as a child. So we did push sometimes and we'll get some of those things. Or how like the way that Malams used to peel orange so fast. Oh my God, like it was so cool.
What year did you move to Abuja from Jos? Do
That
you
would be
remember? And how
five
old were
years
you?
after I was born. So
Oh,
maybe 1999. Yeah.
got it. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. When democracy became a thing in Nigeria again.
Yeah, definitely 1999. Yeah.
And who were your influences back then? Like growing up, like, you
Mm.
were 5 to 10. Who were folks that you were looking up to at the time? Who was shaping your ideology, your philosophy about life?
To be very honest, I wouldn't know specifically, but here are some people that I can give a shout out to. I can definitely give a shout out to my dad, to my mom, to my to Bernie. Shout out to my dad for that as well.
And who's Bernie?
Bernie the cartoon
Oh, yeah.
or
Okay. I
film or
remember
whatever.
the
Yeah,
purple. Yeah.
the purple one. And then I think Disney to an extent, but also books and magazines. Because I used to like to read things that did not concern me. I just would just pick up something and read. I liked to read. I remember loving to read. And what is really crazy about how I read is when I'm reading, I could literally, it's like all of my senses are awakened. So if I went into a different context that I wasn't reading in, or let's say I could smell funny story. Okay, no, well, not so funny, so people don't expect to laugh. But but I remember whenever the ground is wet, right? And I'm driving through Marina, my memory is of Americana because that's something I was reading when the ground was wet and I was driving through, it was raining, something like that. So I have specific books that are associated with specific senses or familiar smells, familiar moments, things like that. So, and my mom, actually, no, not my mom. I remember having to, I would always read. And when I'm sent on an errand, for example, I would be walking with a book in my hand. And so I was the reverse child because my mom was always like, you need to, it's okay, drop that book. Yes, I was the person they were screaming to drop the book. And I wasn't necessarily reading educational books, but I would read random things. But I also really loved math. I really loved math. I'm trying to think about people who influenced me. I think it's a bit difficult because different people played different roles, and there are people I probably will not remember to give shout out to. So I'm sorry, people. But different people, I do know that my science teacher at the point of university was pivotal in my life. My chemistry teacher, Mr. Itodo, was such a great man. I know that my literature teacher or HOD at specific points played specific roles in my life. So it was really, very well rounded, but primarily my parents and some of my peers as well. Some of my peers. I should also say that some of the parents of my peers played roles in my life that they didn't know about because they would always, not a funny story as well, but one of my peers' parents paid my school fees at some point, gave me a scholarship because he just always said that he wishes I was his daughter and he just wants to contribute to my education. And so that was something that was nice, I guess, even for my parents, because it's like 1 year break. You don't have to pay school fees.
Yeah. Would you say you had a relatively good upbringing?
Oh, for sure. And one of the things I cite when I talk about my upbringing is my mom and her experience as a woman, right? She comes back from work or something, a gathering, something. She comes back home one day and she's crying. And I'm like, little, tiny. I'm trying to figure out why my mother is crying, but she's not necessarily saying anything. She's just giving like positive remarks and just saying really positive things to my sister and I. And I felt like that was it was an uplifting moment. My sister and me, she was really saying positive things to us. And later in life, I found out that what had really happened that day was a group of women had asked her, when is she going to give birth to an actual child? And she's like, I have 2 children. And they're like, no, you don't have a child until you have a boy. And she had felt like, why would you say something like that? So it just felt very inhumane. Also coming from someone like my dad who only wanted one child, and my mom had to push to get the second one self because she just felt like it wouldn't be nice for the child to be alone. Yeah, so she had pushed and she had begged, and we ended up as two, which was really good. Thank God we were two. But and my dad did not care our gender. He just always wanted like a child because he didn't think your gender will impact who you become or how you live your life, or he didn't think about it that way. But that moment specifically also reinforced our upbringing because I know my mom said things like to me and my sister that you won't, like, your gender will not limit you, your this will not limit you. And they raised us to always think that if you really wanted to do something and you worked hard for it, you worked smart for it, you can achieve it. Like, they didn't make us feel like we were limited based on anything or that anything we had was a disadvantage. So that really affected my upbringing and probably also made me such an independent thinker as well.
Yeah.
Also created room for discourse at home. So in my house, we can literally talk about anything. You're allowed to question. Yeah, you can question whether or not your question
You're
will be
you're right or
answered.
wrong.
You're
Yeah.
right, you're wrong. That's not really the case. But you
Freedom
can,
of speech, basically,
yeah,
right?
you can question. I didn't grow up in one of the households where they would say, don't talk when elders are speaking. And most people think that that's like way of teaching respect, and that's okay. I feel like if my parents didn't want us to be part of any conversation, they'll ask us to go to the room. As long as we're there and that conversation is happening there, if we have question, we'll ask it. And my dad didn't stop us from expressing ourselves. We could ask questions, and that really helped with my independent thinking. And I have no problems having unpopular opinions or not going with the status quo or things like that. Like, I'm pretty much an independent thinker to the best of my ability. And I also succumbed to superior arguments. So that also made me open to receive that I could be wrong and this is a superior argument. And
yeah. You've mentioned your dad and your mom, a couple of times. I want to talk about your dad very quickly, right? Like, what do you think, made him who he was, and how did he impact your life?
So you must see that I don't talk about my family too much, like outside of, like, we're just talking about them as abstract. So I will try my best to go into as much detail as I possibly can, but I really like to keep their privacy private so that my popularity does not stain their whites. But my parents, I think both of them grew up craving specific things for their lives, and not having the freedom to have those things helped them see the importance of it. You know how, like, because you don't have something, you now know that this thing's important. So they started to push for those things, and they know what they went through by themselves. I mean, that's their story to tell, but they know what they went through trying to get those things or have those things or things like that. And because of how much they had to sacrifice to get the things that they needed or they wanted for themselves, they ensured very early on that our upbringing would be different. And so that affected the way that they structured their lives, their marriage, their ideologies, what it meant to have family values, what our family values were. One of the things early on was we never insult in our house. Like, you can make your point, though. You can disagree, but you see disrespect, you cannot. And so that was a family value that we had, which I'm grateful for now. And I think until this moment that I'm saying it, I didn't realize how that impacts the way that I argue. Because usually I used to be very confused as to why, when people are arguing and they're losing the argument or they feel like they're not being heard, they resort to insults. And I'm like, but does the insult not make your points for you? Like, to me, it sounded foreign. Like, hope not saying, like, why are you now saying someone is mad because they disagree with you, or you're calling them a shower?
Which happens a lot these days,
lot.
right?
Do you understand what I'm saying? And this is not like a Nigerian thing, or like, it's across the world. It's like people start to say derogatory things when they feel like you're not.
I mean, we see it on Twitter all the time.
I'm just very confused. I'm like, are you not trying to articulate yourself? Like, just articulate, like, say what you're trying to say. Understand that not everybody is going to agree with you, and that's okay too. Because the point of view that person has might be tainted by their experiences. Not everybody can think outside of the experiences that they've had. I understand that. But, like, I can't imagine a world where I'm insulting my sister or insulting my loved one, or, like, that's not something that is true for me. I don't even insult my friends. And it's ingrained in me. Of course, I must have picked up some bad habits as a Nigerian, where we cannot be like, that was mad, or like, are you okay? Those kind of things. But, like, that was not how I was raised, and that's not something you would find in my family. So I guess they really did a fantastic job of leveraging their experiences to set pillars and set family values and say, this is what we stand for. This is what, you will never catch us doing this. You will catch us doing this. If they said this is us.
Yeah.
Things like that. I also think that a big part of my excellence ideology must have come from my parents as well. They were very different, but they expressed their excellence differently. And I respect them for that, because they showed me that excellence does not have to be one way. It could be in multiple ways. And in fact, is more useful when people are not looking. So yeah, that was really great. But man, I also think they were strict. So
yeah,
no, they were strict. I think they were strict. Personally,
I feel like I'm not sure like how old your parents are, but my parents are in late 60s and mid 70s.
Same.
They were freaking strict, man. Like I hated at some point, I just looked at my dad and was like, I
I
hate
used to
this
have your
man.
child. Did you have that moment? I was like,
Yes.
am I your child? I
Do
mean, you
you,
can't talk to me.
I mean, especially in a family where you never heard, I love you, I love you. I'm not sure if that was the case in your own
Hmm.
family, but in my family, there was no, I love you, not until we were adults.
Oh, yeah.
We just hated them.
And I think they did a good job of expressing love. I don't remember if it was articulated. I think it was, but they did a
Mm,
very good job of expressing love in their own way, the way that they knew how. But I do think that they were strict, but their strict was different depending on the child. Yeah, like for example, I didn't have a choice. I had to always be top three in school. Like, and it's not like anybody is going to throw a party for me because that's the standard. That's what's expected.
yep.
No, it's not that, I don't know how to explain it, but that's
No,
what's
I
expected,
understand.
But that's not the case for my sister. My sister didn't grow up that way. But I always give them credit and I say that nobody gives you a rule book for how to raise a child. I think the internet helps us now where we can see multiple ways people are doing it and then decide which way we want to go, their resources and all of that. But it didn't feel like there were as many available resources back then on how to raise a Nigerian kid or a black kid or da 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 da. And I think they did their best. And I think that they learned as they went as well. So
And I guess some grace needs to be given to them, right?
I mean, I give
Like
my
you
parents
said.
grace, so
Yeah,
like
I do now as an adult, but growing up it wasn't, there was no
growing up, it
grace.
wasn't like that. Let me not come off as though I've been giving them grace since it's a lie.
Now, let's talk about excellence because you said it twice now, and I told you earlier that I mentioned that we're going to come back to it. So, you wrote somewhere that you have been driven by the belief that your name should always be associated with excellence.
100%.
That was your quote. What does excellence mean to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that if I can say something is excellent, it would be that I gave it my best. But not only did I give it my best, is that when it's compared across, like first, it must deliver on the thing that it's supposed to with both grace and functionality. Like it must deliver. But beyond that, is like when it's compared, it's not going to be like it's excellent for this level. I need it to be excellent across levels. Like I need it to be able to compete on a global scale because it's different for different people. But I think that that's also my way of pushing representation for my people. And so I can't be subpar. I can't be mediocre. I mean, I can, but I choose not to. Um, and this doesn't mean that there are not things that I'm mediocre at. But if there are things that I identify that I'm mediocre at, best believe that if that's something that is important to me, I would be working on improving it. I'm also okay, and I should say this so that I don't put pressure on anyone. I'm also okay with being an amateur because I can at least identify that this is something that I'm not good at, or this is something that I am learning. So, for example, I really want to be excellent at speaking French, but I haven't put myself in the environment that has fostered my ability to speak French fluently, right? So I accept that I'm an amateur at that. What I would never do is pretend to be good at it and then embarrass my people or embarrass myself, right? So I wouldn't pretend that I'm good at it. I would accept that this is an area of improvement that I need to improve on, and I would do my best to improve. I will always strive to ensure that the things that I'm doing them at the best and at the highest level within my power. And if there's room for improvement, best believe that I'm
Yeah.
improving. You just know, yeah. So for me, that is really what excellence is about, ensuring that you can beat your chest and say, I did my best, and this thing delivers both on functionality and every other aspect that it's supposed to deliver on.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. And if you want to give advice to someone that wants to really be excellent, right? Like, is this something that you imbibe? Is it something that you can teach yourself? Is it something that you can get good at? Is it something that is born innately? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I
And
think
how?
it's a value and a skill. A lot of things that we attribute to being born with, sometimes it's just that we were surrounded in an environment that fostered it, right? So you learned it just so much more earlier than everybody else. It's a skill, it's a value system. So first you have to have the belief that this is something you want, or this is something, a standard you hold yourself to. And then you can build the skill to match up the belief, in my opinion. Again,
Yeah.
this is not fact. This is not a law. I don't know what other people have to say about this, but I think that excellence is how we shift culture. Excellence is how we, improve what the status quo is. One of the things that, and I know you did not ask me, but I'm going to say it.
Please do.
When people talk about AI, and they talk about how AI is taking jobs and everything, one of the perspectives that I have that is a bit left is that AI is just redefining the standard of what basic is. Like, it's redefining what entry level means. So it means that those administrative tasks and those things that could have been easily automated are no longer going to be what the standard would be for what it means to be entry level. It means that this bar for entry level just went up. And that also means that the bar for excellent and managerial and senior position has also gone up. So it means that we now have the capacity to access a higher level of excellence, or a higher level of intelligence, or a higher level of output, because we're not concerned with the mundane anymore. So question now becomes, when your bar for mundane shifts, when your bar for what entry level shifts, what is next for you? What is the thing after that that you can leverage? Like, this is now automated for you. It's like the internet. There was a period in our lives when we had to send letters physically and travel and drop it somewhere. But now messages can be exchanged with the speed of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So if that can happen, it means that information is traveling so much faster, actions are being taken so much faster. And the ripple effect of that is that we're seeing technological advancement or actions not being as delayed as before, but things are happening so much faster, right? So based on that, how much have we improved as a people because of that little change?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? The computer is doing something totally different. And because of computer and internet, we now have social media and smartphones. And so based on that, the bar for what it means to be employed has shifted.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree.
Exactly. So what is the shift that needs to happen for you to be able to get? So for me, have the mindset that you're going to, and I keep saying for me because I understand that different people have different contexts and different environments and different priorities and da. But if your priority is, I want to be excellent for myself before I even start thinking about being excellent for other people, set the bar for yourself, define what it means to be excellent according to your bar, and then take yourself outside of your own environment and say, this excellence that I speak about, can I portray it beyond my environment? Or do I even just want to be excellent for my environment? And that those two things are okay as well.
You studied biochemistry, right,
Right.
in school. Your facial expression says a lot.
Like, I can't believe it. Do you understand? Like, oh my God, I was somewhere this weekend that just passed. Someone was just like, oh no, Blessing is not a science student. There's no way. There's absolutely no way she's a science student. And they argued. I mean, I was right there and they could have just asked me, but they argued for like 30 minutes. Very heated conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, who is willing to place the bet? Of course, more people said I was not a science student, and only 2 people who knew said I was a science student. It was so funny to watch.
So you studied biochemistry, and I won't dwell too much on that. But how does one move from biochemistry to branding and communication? Like, where did the love for branding and communication? I think I have an idea on the communication side of things just because of how you grew up. But where was the love? Where did that love come from?
I think I would even shift the story one step backwards and say that on dinner tables, like when we would sit down to eat, I know I say dinner tables and I make it sound fancy, but like when we're all eating sha.
It might be fancy, who knows?
When we're all eating sha, they will big arguments about whether Blessing is going to be a doctor or a lawyer. So that's literally where some of this conversation started from. And my dad says I don't entirely believe him, which I've also told him that I don't totally believe. I feel like he played a role and he must have sowed the seed in my head, but he says, and my mom agrees with him, that I once said that I really wanted to save lives when I grew up because I'd seen someone save their lives. And it's possible that I said that too, because I was talking early. So I can't even defend myself.
The things that you said when you were younger.
It's so crazy. Anyway, so I had said that I was going to be a doctor, and because I wanted to save lives. And so, of course, as an African parent, they must have been so excited because everybody else is forcing their child to be doctor or engineer, and one is saying that she willingly wants to be a doctor. So they supported me. So the toys that I had were very medical inclined. I had a lab coat. I had a toy stethoscope. I used to walk around the neighborhood, and when people would be like, Blessing, I'd be like, don't call me Blessing, call me Dr. Blessing.
Okay.
My neighbors have confirmed this as well. So I don't really have a lot of defense for myself. But growing up, I knew that I didn't want to just like be a general doctor or anything like that. I picked interest in being a neurosurgeon because I had just found out that we had only single digit neurosurgeons at that time. And that concerned me because the brain is such an important part of the human body. And I was like, we need more. It means that if somebody had a brain surgery that needed to be done, there were just very few people who could handle it or even diagnose it. And then they would need to be flown abroad. Made me so uncomfortable. So I said I was going to be a neurosurgeon, and it was the hardest type of surgery from what I had. I was really excited. But then my dad was like, you're so tiny. And my mom agreed with him. It's like, you're so tiny. I can't imagine you traveling abroad because, of course, it wasn't like something I could study in Nigeria. So it's like, even if you get a scholarship, whatever way that you're going, you're not going anywhere. You need to go and learn values, instill values in yourself so that when you travel, I know that everything is fine. It's not just.
Typical
So
Nigerian
I'm
parents.
telling you. But then he was like, so let's pick a pre-medical course. I think he chose Covenant University. Actually, they both chose Covenant University. And
That's your mom and dad, right?
my mom and dad, yeah. And they were like, what? Oh, there's one story I feel like I have not really told a lot of people. So let me tell you, because you're my friend and I'm going to give you exclusive. Not to shade any university as well, please, people don't take this out of context, but I was considering going to study medicine at Unical, like University of Calabar. I went there I don't even know whether I was to write the entrance exam or I don't know. There's something you go to the school for after you've gotten your YEC and JAM or whatever.
Yeah.
So I
Post UME,
went,
baby.
I probably, right? So I know I went. A cultist had come to like speak to me and just sort of let me know that the person was actually trying to help me get around and everything, and then they ended up sort of trying to recruit me, and that made me very uncomfortable. And I think I told my dad, and my dad was like, you're not going to any federal school to study medicine. Like
No
I don't know the
way.
speed at which he said it. Yeah, because I feel like I've always skipped this part of the story. But yeah, that happened. That happened in real life, and I was about to be recruited by cultists. And my dad was like, no, you're too tiny. You can't. No, you can't do that. Go and learn values in Covenant University. And Covenant University didn't have medicine at the time. And I think that what do you call that thing? When they go on strike. Yeah, some strikes had started as well because Labour Party was very active at the time as well. So strikes were something else that made it unpredictable for you to know when you would actually leave school. And
Yeah.
so technically what should have been a 7-year course with medicine
Could be
or
a 9 or 10 year
could be a
course.
10-year, 15-year. You don't even know, you don't
True.
really know when you're going to end. So my dad is like, he really had good, thoughtful reasons, to be honest. So let me not make it about just being tiny. I mean, being tiny was the primary one I was given. But I think that there were other factors where he now said, let's figure out Covenant University. But Covenant didn't have medicine. So we were like, what is a pre-medical course that you could do that could give you a leg up? Because if you have a pre-medical course, when you go to medical school, you don't have to start from first year. And so that gives you an advantage, right? And after medicine, of course, you then have to do surgery, then general surgery, then specializing, da 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 da. You have to be an attending. It was a whole lot of process. But the first step was I was going to go to Covenant University to study biochemistry. So we went. I think my dad and I went to the cyber cafe together, and we picked the biochemistry together. I think it was between biochemistry and microbiology. And I always say that I should have seen that the bio was short. Like they abbreviated the bio and the chemistry was long. I should have clocked that. I didn't. Because everybody says it's biology and chemistry is a lie. It's bio and chemistry. And so it was really nice. And I had such a great experience. However, when I was doing my internship, I did phytomedicine. So I had to work with plants to extract the thing that is eventually used for medicines, blah, 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 from plants. Then I did virology, which was really focused on virus. And I think the specific virus that I focused on was HIV. And I worked in a virology institute. I got to interact with some patients, take their blood, do their viral load, check if the HIV is becoming AIDS, all of those things. Sorry, science.
Was this after school?
This was third year of school.
Third
the
year.
6 months
Wow.
it's a third year of school. And I think that was the exact moment that it dawned on me that we talk a lot about, like, I want to save lives, I want to do this, I want to do that. And that is nice and dandy, but what about the lives that I will not save? Like the lives I'm responsible for? Because I was reading Grey's Anatomy. I mean, I was watching Grey's Anatomy. I was reading Ben Carson's book. I was gingered. But what about the lives that I will not save? And then speaking to a couple of medical doctors back then, surgeons specifically, they would always say that they remembered the first life that they lost. Of course, you get used to it later, but in the beginning, it doesn't always go well. So I just started to ask myself, are there other ways to save lives? And for context, when I was in secondary school, I was one of the only science students who took arts courses. So I took both science and arts courses. I was really good at literature. I represented my school in math competitions, debate competitions, essay writing, science competitions. I was part of Jets Club, but I was also part of drama and cultural club. I was that babe. And so the HOD of both departments, so the HOD of science and the HOD of arts, went to the principal's office, had a row, and they decided that I was going to take both courses because the arts guy couldn't imagine me not taking his class. It's like such a waste of talent. He can't. It was the whole thing. So I ended up, taking both science and arts courses. So this gives you context for, like, my family is confused about where I'm going to be. My lecturers couldn't decide as well, so they make me do both. And then now I'm in my adult life. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do this medical thing anymore. Fast forward, I come back from IT and I join a club. We're asked to write a proposal for a business. Never had done that before. Self-taught, learned how to do it. And shout out to my registrar for having such a club for us to be able to expand our thinking. So we did that. And also shout out to Covenant University because they had this entrepreneurship focus that a lot of people didn't have in schools back then. So we did that. And then I just got intrigued by the concept of proposals, business plans. So I started to teach myself how to write one, started to get people pay me for it. Even sometimes I write business plans for people outside of the country, which was nice. And I'll get paid. And I was impressed. I was like, good on you, Blessing. And fast forward, people would always compliment me about the marketing side of my business plan because, of course, those were my ideas. I could think about how you should market it, how you should get it in front of the right set of people. Someone just spoke to me one day. I was like, listen, this thing you do, you should consider branding. It's a good mix of business, marketing, and all of that. Just check it out. I did, loved it. Went through, planned in my head that after NYC, I was going to register for a school where I would learn this. And I did. I went to Orange Academy for a year. And yeah, the rest is history. I'm here.
Do you remember your first branding or communication gig out of Orange Academy? Do you remember that first
Funny thing is I do. And it was Nubia Africa. And the reason I do is because I got this job and I told the man that I was going to, sir, I'm going to school for the 1 year, but everything I learn, I'm going to implement in this business. So is that a fair deal? Like I wasn't dishonest about what I would be doing with my weekends. And he was such an understanding person. I think he really liked how I thought and what I brought to the table. So I remember, one of my team members at the time was Icon Oreoluwa. I don't know if you know him. He's currently the founder of Street Church. Yes, yeah, Street Church is popular, so you guys probably know him. And I think we worked on Nubia Africa together. I came up with a lot of the programming. He assisted. He came up with really beautiful ideas. We hosted, oh my God, working in startup is hard because we did plenty things. I was supposed to be managing social media, but then the man eventually promoted me. I was the only lady in the whole company. So the man eventually promoted me to assistant manager just because of my contribution to the work. And then I had to now lead all this team of men. But that was fine. I had to do a lot of work too. So programming, presenting. What did I not do? Like just think it and do it.
Managing.
I also, I think, used my website skills to build the websites for the company at the time. Ore was mostly handling a lot of the YouTube things, but it was such a great experience. Like I wouldn't give it up for the world. Like I would do the same thing exactly how I did it back then for the same experience that I got. Yeah, so proud. Funny enough, I feel like the logo that we came up with
Yeah.
and the brand story and the brand direction and the strategy can still work in today's context. And really what that company was about was figuring out how to tell African stories in ways people had not heard about it before. Just sort of put out more African stories because there's just so much bad news. And it's like, how do we platform positive news about us and our culture and document it? I met some of the group, like most amazing people during that time. So yeah,
Yeah.
wouldn't change it for the world.
So I saw a quote from you that said,
You know that
I did my research. I did my research.
Abraham Lincoln,
That,
Socrates, those are the people who have quotes. Are
you
you
have a
telling me
quote
that
as well.
little me, I have quotes
Yes,
too?
you do.
I'm going to take it.
So it said, my mission is to demystify branding so brands can focus on what matters, creating products their customers love. I aim to leave anyone who encounters me a little bit better than they were before they met me. What does demystifying branding mean?
So I think what I'm really focused on is taking the mystery away. So sometimes when people talk about branding, it sounds like this very foreign concept. There's like, it sounds so big, so difficult, so logo fonts, like something that they shouldn't be caring about or something they should care about, but later when they have money. And that was not something I was comfortable with. I also thought that the people who used to talk about branding back then just made it sound too dramatic. And I didn't know that I thought this, by the way. I just started to talk about branding and try to simplify it and give relatable examples and stuff. And notice that people would gravitate towards me and say, Blessing, I've never heard of it that way before. Like, I didn't think about it from this perspective. You helped me relate to it. You helped me see that it was doable. So it stopped looking like this mountainous task that you had to do or something you had to wait to be perfect or something you had to wait till you had money to do. And it started to look more and more achievable, doable, relatable. And I think people who follow me by now would have learned, and I think this is how I test who is my real follower and who is not. It's like when they ask you about what branding is, do you still say that a brand is a logo, is a font, is a color? That means you haven't heard me teach. And that means I still have so much work to do because there's none of those things. And I just really try my best to leverage any opportunity that I get to just help people see that branding is a whole thing. It's in everything that you do. It's a combination of everything, just the way you're a human being and you have your name, your vibe, your appearance, how you
Your
dress,
energy.
your energy, you have your brother, you have your sister, you relate with people differently. Like just all of those things, like the sum total of that is what makes you a unique individual. That's really how branding is. It's just imagining that if this tool or this product was a human being, if this business was a human being, what kind of business would that person be? You don't have to fake it till you make it. You don't have to not be yourself because you're trying to build a brand. So those are like tiny little things that I talk about. But then the part on leaving people and environments better than I meet them is just really about, I think, a thing I said a while back, which is we can choose to complain every single day. But I get tired of complaining. I don't know about other people. And complaining doesn't really move the needle. So I, in my head, can tell the difference between when we're having a conversation versus when we're just complaining and we're venting to each other. I was like, so are we venting towards a solution? Are we just venting to feel better? Like, what's that? And so I made up a rule in my head that if I find myself complaining about something over and over again, I'm going to do something about it. And that's my way of doing something about it. I may not be able to change the world, but I can change my world. And so the little I can do to make a difference, I'm always happy to do. I wouldn't like, and this shows up in the weirdest ways. It's not just for the big things, it's also for the little things. I must have written an article where I talked about how I clean public toilets. And people were like, huh, Blessing, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, if I am at the airport and I walk into a stall and that stall has tissue all over on the floor, blah, 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 I'm going to clean it up. Most people would not. Most people would come out of it and complain and be like, oh, that place was so dirty. Da, da, da. That's not me. I will clean it up so that the next person after me has a better experience because I didn't like how I felt when I walked into it. If it's beyond my cleanup capacity, then I would find the cleaner and say, hi, I noticed this specific stall is not in good shape. Could you please help with it? Because they might just not know. I'm not going to say, oh, they did not do the job. I would assume that they don't know. And I would just point them in the direction with love and kindness, of course. So that's my way. I wouldn't step into a room and the light bulb is not working. And I would just complain, oh, the lights is not working, the lights, the light. I will actually, very few people sit in a room where something is not working and actually take a step to do something about it. So for me, if I'm having a conversation with you, I'm hoping that after that conversation, something changes or the way that I add extra perspective to your already existing perspective. And you do the same for me. Or I make a move to change something that I thought was broken.
And who have you encountered that has left you a little bit better than they met you?
Oh my God, I've met so many amazing people in my lifetime. I can't complain. Oh gosh. And I probably put this on thread recently this year, and I was saying that I know people say that they're self-made and everything, and maybe one day I would say it's because, billionaire status is different. Maybe I won't say it's maybe like Forbes will put me on their self-made billionaire list. I mean, I'm not trying to be a billionaire, but I feel like if somebody else might say it for me. So please, when it happens, don't drag me. Don't use this video. But I don't think I'm self-made. And please, actually, drag me and use this video so I can remember that I don't think I'm self-made. I actually think that many people have lifted me on their shoulders. They've given me a little bit of a boost, right? They've contributed different things, their knowledge, their time, their voice, their suggestions, something. They've done something that has helped move the needle, even probably reshaped my perspective. Maybe they didn't mean it, but it still came off in a way that helped me. So I just know that I am not made by myself, that many people contributed, like I'm products of community effort. That's what I say. We're products of community effort. However, if I could give some specific people shout out.
Please. I want one or two or three people that
I can give you more, but I will try my best to control myself.
Let's go for it.
Okay. So my very first shout out will go to my partner and husband, because that man has tried. It was his sister who told me about branding. I don't even think she remembers. And she was my friend before I married him. So that was nice. He has also really supported me in ways that, like, maybe giving me alternate perspectives, pushed me to apply for things that I probably would not have, or drags me by applying on my, like, he will apply, then add my name. I say, we're doing this thing together. And it's always work, like. But I can see how sometimes by just pushing myself and doing the work. I'm grudgingly saying this, but, and this is not to encourage, if you're watching this, baby, this is not to encourage you. Don't do it. It's enough. But he has encouraged me. He has pulled me into things and just sort of, we've worked together in ways that have added to the sum total of my life. What else? He's been really supportive, and he has also been a good, I feel like he probably suffers a little bit because I think, like, I use him to think. I use him to think like a good, I just verbalize. Maybe he does the same to me, so it's even. But like, I can just, tell him like, oh, this is what I'm thinking, and I would argue with myself. Oh, by the way, I'm really good at this. By the way, I will argue for and against the same topic just to be sure that I can find a perspective that I am at peace with. So he has to listen to both sides. I don't know how this has affected him, if that's created a different type of trauma for him, but
I need him on the podcast.
shout out to you, baby. Shout out to you.
Shout out to you.
Yes, he has definitely added value to the sum total of my life, and I think like I wouldn't ask for a better life partner. At least up until this point, he has done a good job. So he has tried. Let's give him his.
Who else?
Second person will be Seth Godin. Now, so Godin is really interesting because I didn't see that coming.
First of all, how did you guys meet? Like, I remember you doing like how? Like, where does that happen? Tell us.
I promise you, I didn't see that coming. I must have attended an event, a virtual event that he was doing during COVID. So first, I've obviously read his books. I followed his blog. There were other things that I found him fascinating, but I'm not the person to have direct mentors per se. So like, I don't have a mentor or like, but I would read a bunch of resources or things that people put out. I would listen to their interviews in ways that they inspire me and, process and figure out what steps I would take based on what I've learned. And he was one of those people. So one day, I think I listened to him at an event and he said something. He said something and I disagreed with it. So I sent him a message to say, hi, I disagree with you. And that's not exactly how I said it, but then that was really the cocoa of what I said. And so he responded, which shocked me, because I would expect that most times when you're a thought leader and people disagree with you, you want to prove that you are, the thought leader. But he wasn't like that. So that surprised me. And I was really, like, it was a good surprise. I was so happy. He was willing to go through that conversation with me. And we went back and forth for a bit. And then we ended up at a middle point. And I saw where he was coming from and he saw where I was coming from. And I was like, you know what? I would really like you to come, do a live with me, 15 minutes live. And he's like, yeah, sure, set the date, da, 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 da. And I'm like, okay.
Just like that.
I set a date and he shows up. So I had this whole conversation with him. I thanked him after. I did an ebook version of the conversation, which I obviously made available to everyone for free, but I spoke to him first, took his permission, did all of that. And I don't think I really spoke that much to him anymore until he sent out an email inviting me and a bunch of other people to come contribute to a book that he was writing. And I was like, oh, okay. And just like that, I became a part of the cool people who were part of writing a book. I mean, I co-authored a book with an almanac, which was really nice. So we did that. It was the Carbon Almanac. We did that. And then we just kept in touch, right? And I don't know, he created a community based on the people who contributed to that book. And when he was building a tool for nonprofits, he reached back out to me and he said he would like me to be one of the 6 people who would build that tool with him. And that was when, my ladies and gentlemen, I knew that I had made it.
You have arrived.
No, but it was such a good, like, it was good for me because it made me see that, okay, he must have seen something that he appreciated. He respected my skill, even if he wasn't very clear on what exactly each and every one of us would do. He just had the faith that we all were going to contribute positively to the project. And so we ended up working together, which was so cool.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then, and he's just really supported me even personally as well with advice, with access to specific things, with, just shouting me out when I needed to be shouted out. He has just been really supportive, and he didn't ask for anything in return, which was so cool. But working with him really transformed me because he truly bows to the superior argument. Like, he doesn't force his thoughts on you. He really practices what he preaches. You know how, like, you get close to someone and you don't like them anymore because what they said, and that's not Seth. Like, Seth is super consistent. Like, if he feels a certain way, he would say it. If he doesn't talk about private things, he would say he doesn't talk about private things. Like, he's just, what you see is what you get. Like, he's not trying to be anything for anyone. And I guess it comes with age as well. But he's not trying to impress you.
Yeah.
And my best part is that the care at which, like, that he uses to communicate. I think that's the biggest take home I've taken from him outside of consistency. Is like, you can share what you think, you can disagree with care, and leave food for thought after. So I really appreciated that.
Can you give us one more person that's left you a lot or a little better?
This is minus my family, right? So, because of course, my sister, my parents, they
absolutely
shout out to them. It's obvious they did a fantastic job. I think Parminder Vir, we share the same birthday, by the way. I love Parminder. Parminder used to be the former CEO of Tony Dumelu Foundation, but in every context that I met her, she was just amazing. Like, I don't know how to explain that. She's also
I encountered her, like, I was part of the Tony Dumelu entrepreneurship program. So yeah, she's lovely. She's fantastic. She just related with everybody, no matter how old you are. Like, she's beautiful.
I've never felt like I mean, when you interact with her, right, you know that she's not your mate. Like, you know, she has, but then she never makes you feel like she's not your mate. I don't know. And also, I think I should say that I need to give a special shout out. That you probably know this about me. Most of my friends are old, like old. And when I say older, people think, oh, I'm saying 40. No, I'm not saying 40, 50, like 60, 70, 80 old, right? And I'm so grateful for the gift of their friendship because they help me see perspectives that I otherwise would have overlooked. Pamina is one of those people, like, the wealth of her knowledge, beyond the wealth of her knowledge, how she interacts with you, how she checks on you, how she shouts me out for things, how she gives me the opportunity to contribute to her life. Like, interacting with her and seeing how she interacts with others, or seeing how she takes things that there's a consistency in the people that have impacted me. I'm beginning to see that they are consistent first, their words match their actions, and there is a care that they treat the world with and people with. And I don't take that for granted. And I guess seeing those type of people helps me cancel out the negative that I see, where in the world, you know, when you see how other people are reacting, you have this tendency to want to change your own values and be like, if this person could do this to me, why won't I? You know, like, there's this energy that comes out of that. But I guess these type of people have kept me grounded because you don't have to shift your values because everybody else is, or because the world is unfair. So I really respect that. Parminder was just such a ball of sunshine. God, I can't complain. Amazing woman. Lemi Ghariokwu is also another amazing man. He used to be Fela's album cover designer, and just experiencing him, having conversations with him, he has definitely left me better than I met him. We would have conversation for hours about what it means to be Pan-African. We would argue, but we will always come back.
You had a picture video with him recently, right?
He was also and he was also on my unbranded podcast as well.
Yes, I saw that as well. Yeah, he seems really down to earth as well.
Oh, like, my God,
feels like a baby.
He's like a boy, you know, like, he's just boyish. Honestly, people have to watch it to see, right? He's just boyish. Like, you see him, he's supposed to be 60 something. But when you experience him, you don't get 60 something. You just feel like a teenager that is just really excited about life, about Africa, wants to really see the world become better and just demand that of the world. And he also taught me the value of consistency as well. Because back then he used to draw every single day. He challenged himself. He would draw every single day. One day, and until people started to pay him to do portraits. And then one day, a bar very close to his house asked him to do Hidden Dragon and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And he did the poster and hung it in the bar, right, for them. They paid him for it. And then one day, Fela's Babatunde guy came into to drink. And then as he was drinking, he saw the art and he was like, who did this? I need to talk to the person. As part of his daily drawing, he had reimagined one of Fela's album covers, just like, oh, I'm listening to the music. I would like to draw something that I think represents this song. And he did that. And as soon as Babatunde Harrison called him, he used to write Sunday Punch back then, but he was friends with Fela. Babatunde Harrison now calls and says, I like send for that boy. He comes around with his portfolio of work and he shows everything. Yeah. Now, he doesn't know that Babatunde Harrison is Fela's friend. He doesn't even know why he was called, except that they liked your artwork. Come and see the man that wants to meet you. And he brings this body of work that he has gathered, that he has been giving himself as assignment. So it was almost like preparation met opportunity, because as the man was just flipping through, the man then encounters a Fela's drawing and he's like, you know what, I absolutely have to show this to Fela. And that's really how he got his plug to Fela. So I'm just like, that is crazy, and people like that, they make me think about history. He spoke to me about Biafra, made me start digging deeper into what really happened in the World War. Just conversations I naturally probably wouldn't have cared about, to be honest. That's something they've all truly done for me. And they all check me. It's like they hold me accountable like madman. So I can't really escape and just...
That's important though. Wow. Yeah. Those are three phenomenal people that you've mentioned. That's great. You know what? I want us to talk a little bit about Ingressive for Good, because it would be an injustice if we don't. So in 3 years, you led the growth of Ingressive for Good from 0 to 250,000 community members. That is insane. And you trained over 100,000 and you've placed thousands in jobs. How did the conversation with Maya go? Like, what was like, because this was after Disha. Can you paint us a picture of how that became a thing?
You remember I said that I used to run a community where we had like 10,000 entrepreneurs and whatnot. So that's an example of a community my husband dragged me. Back then he was my husband. So he was like my partner. And then he drags me like, oh, I'd like to do this thing. Come, let's do it together.
Because he was at Ingressive at the time.
No. Yeah, no. At this point, he was probably at Tony Lumelu Foundation.
Okay.
So yeah, he was running... Was he even running programs yet? I think it was running programs at... No, he wasn't running programs yet. He was still like not running programs at Tony Lumelu Foundation. So actually, no, he wasn't at Tony Lumelu Foundation. He was at Hares Holdings. So he was working with Tony Lumelu, but he wasn't working at Tony Lumelu Foundation. I don't even think Tony Lumelu Foundation had existed at this time. So he drags me, he applies for it, he puts me there as co-director or something like that, co-chapter leader, whatever it was called. And the agreements we had, so we had to structure a way that worked for us, because at this time, I think I was working at an agency. And so one of the things we said was we will host monthly events. And I think, we'll host monthly events. And we structured this in a way that was different from how it was run everywhere else in the world. So it was that we would put a price tag on it, because we noticed that whenever an event was free, people would decide whether, like, the cost to not showing up wasn't high. Yeah. So we would always put a price tag on it. And this also affected almost everything else in my life, which is there will always be a price tag. If I'm doing something for free, it's just maybe cause. But if it's an event, there will always be a price tag. And the higher that thing you have to trade off is, the more likely people would behave themselves. Not like the way to say, I'm not doing it again, they'll think about it. So the second thing was, we'll put food at the beginning of the event. So if you come late, you will hear about the food that we ate. You will see pictures. You will know, you smell the food, but you won't eat it. because
Just to
you're
be clear, this is the community you had before.
Yes.
You're just
Yes.
trying to paint a picture and context.
100%, yes. And we had structured these things based on, this is the kind of community we want to run. These are the kind of people we want to show up. This is the impact we want to have. So based on those things, we had to create pillars and say, these are the things we would stand for. These are the rituals as in, this is how we would run the community, right? So one of those rituals was food. And that food, consistent. In the morning, when we do the event, that's the first thing that goes. The food finishes. People who come late know they're going to miss. So we started to have very full seats first 30 minutes of the event. So we wouldn't have like empty seats or things like that. People would show up on time. We also broke down the structure. We'd have a thought leader who's going to come share their story. And then we'd have a thought leader who is going to do something that is like a mini masterclass. So if that's around accounting, legal, whatever it takes to run a business, we would theme every single month. And so we did that. And Maya was one of the people who was to share her story and share what people should be looking at. And then the best thing about that community was it was so down to earth in the way that it was organized that if you came with a high shoulder or whatever it is, you bring your shoulder down because everybody would talk to you. Like, it was just so, I don't know how we did it, to be honest, but building out the structure really, drove the community. So Maya was one of the people who came to speak. Evans as well was one of the people who came to speak. When Maya came, she loved what she experienced so much that she started trying to hire me after the encounter. And I just didn't want to work in VC. I didn't think that was the way for me.
Yeah.
And I kept saying no. Then eventually she called me up and said we should meet up to eat. And food is always a way to my heart. So if you want to meet me up, Dio knows this better than most. Food, people. So she took me out, we ate, and she told me about this idea that she had, that they were running a CSR program under the venture firm. And the CSR program was paying fees for computer science students. They had some student ambassadors in some places, but there was no specific structure around it. And she wants to formalize it. She wants to be able to do more than that. So she's trying to figure that out, and she really wants to add value to the tech ecosystem in Africa. That was enough to pique my interest. So it was her idea. And I think and I said, yes, totally. That's something I would love to work on. So we eventually met, and I think four of us, Uwem, Maya, that's Uwem, my partner, Maya, Sean, and I, four of us met at her house, and we had this whiteboard and we broke it down, and I was eventually able to sort of structure out what the nonprofit literally became. So I was there from day zero, right? I structured out what the nonprofit became. I structured out how we introduced ourselves, like how it was said. I worked with Bola to build the brand, like visuals from ground up. We clarified what the pillars of the organization was. We clarified what our goals were, like every single thing. And we started with just 4 team members, $0 in our bank account. And it was just so beautiful to see how that went from that to real life.
Yeah, that's really cool, because I remember you actually doing it. I think we had conversations at some point, for funding and stuff like that. So it was really good to see how you guys had progressed, from outside in. 2 things I want to cover before, we're done is number 1, when you think about branding and communications, right? What do you say to someone looking to build their brand and communicate better?
I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again.
Yes, please.
And maybe I should make it 3 core things that you should look out for. Number 1 is don't fake it till you make it. Start where you are. In fact, it's just one thing. Don't fake it till you make it. Instead, start where you are with what you have. Decide very early on, because truly what branding is this is where you are now. This is where you want to get to. And branding is just that journey, the bridge that takes you there. So in your mind, it's like, where am I now? Be honest with yourself about where you are now. Be honest with yourself about where you want to go. Remember that it's a journey, not a destination. So by the time you get here, this becomes where you are now, and this becomes a new place that you want to get to, right? So always have that, is it awareness that it's a journey. The destination will continue to move as long as you're progressing. So it's not a destination, it's a journey. So as opposed to faking it till you make it, grow into it. Because what that does for you is that it communicates very clearly where you are. It helps the people who you're speaking to know exactly where you are and know how they can be catalysts for you. I always make a joke that you shouldn't brand yourself so out of place that your helper starts to celebrate you. Like your helper, your helper now thinks that you are their boss. That's not really the goal. You need to be able to recognize that this is where I am now. This is where I'm trying to get to. And the people who can help me get there are along my way, like they're on the journey with me. So if, for example, I want to be known as a content creator, but I don't have a camera, what do I have? Maybe I have a phone. Maybe I don't have a phone. Maybe I want to start being a creator by writing. Maybe I can borrow my friend's phone and give that friend a shout out every time I use their phone to say, hi, everyone. This is Blessing coming to you live from Dayo's phone. I'm saying Dayo because when I make it, I want everybody to know that Dayo put me on. Something like that. That gives you a boost. You are so much more interesting doing that than pretending that is your phone. And who knows, somebody might watch what you said, watch what you talk about, and put money together to get you a phone. Or a brand might want to sponsor and give you a phone. But because you've been pretending since that you have phone, nobody thinks that you need a phone. Do you get what I mean? And this is not just like
that's so
content.
dope. That's so
Yeah,
dope.
this is not just content creation. This is like business as well. This is, you don't need to be chasing influencers for influencers to be the ones to talk about your product. What about the people who are currently buying from you? How can you platform those people to make them feel so loved and seen that they are the influencers of your product? Like influencers don't have to be the people who have thousands of followers. The people who could influence for you could be customers who just truly care about what you're offering. They probably have 500 followers, but those 500 followers are their family and friends who really care about what they think. So don't do it the way that everybody else is doing it and feel the pressure to fake it till you make it. I would say grow into it, be honest about where you are, truly know what your identity is, truly know what your values are, know what you stand for. And then when it's time to communicate, communicate as honestly as you can, as transparently as you can, have a goal, have a strategy, and you'll get there. The last thing I will add, and I also said that you should use what you have. So really ask yourself, I want to get from 0 to 1. What can I do to get to 0.1? What do I have now that can boost me to 0.1? How can I start and do things consistently so that I can get here, so that I can get to the next level? Sometimes we procrastinate so much because we're thinking about how to make it perfect. And I'm a victim of this too. Daya literally asked me before this video, he said, Blessing, I've not seen season 2 of Unbranded, and it was so good the last time. Where is it? And I said, oh, I was overthinking how I was going to do this.
You were actually even thinking about what you were going to do on the call.
Exactly. And immediately I said it, I was like, why am I now?
Why are you thinking about just do
doing
it?
this thing? You get like there's a different way to do it. And I literally just clocked that different way on this phone. And it doesn't take me anything to make that different way happen.
But, yeah.
So stop like limiting your success and positioning yourself in a way that doesn't favor you. The last thing is really that values thing I said. Really know your values. And that part is important because I always make a joke to my audience that there is no reason why a vegan should be doing collaboration with KFC. None. Because what are your values? Like, what do you stand for? You don't collaborate with everybody. You shouldn't collaborate because people have money or because they are popular. You should collaborate based on your values, shared goals, shared beliefs, shared vision, shared something. So really think through, what are the things that I stand for as a company or as a person? And I think one of the other things I say about companies is, ask yourself, if my company was a human being, what kind of human would it be? And that could really help you define what personality, what values. Don't be someone you're not. You won't succeed at branding.
Yeah. Stay true to yourself.
Stay true to yourself. Yeah.
This leads to the next point on, what mountain are you climbing next?
Ooh.
What is on the horizon for Blessing? You know what I'm talking about.
I don't even know why I've been lucky about this one, but I've been lucky about this one. So you know how I've been saying that if I find myself complaining about something over and over again, I need to change it? That's what led to this. So I had been complaining that we're missing out on a lot of opportunities because we're not pushing our narratives. And first, I used to just talk about this only towards like individuals, but I realized that there is a bigger world where this needs to be implemented, and that's with venture capitalists and governments. So a lot of VCs are trying to raise money, close specific funds and things like that. And I was invited to a bunch of roundtables by VCs, by governments. And every time people would postulate different reasons why, foreigners or the global economy is not funneling more money into the continent. And the one thing I keep seeing missing when I interact with those foreigners and global economy and DFIs and all of that is that they don't have the full picture. It's that they don't really know what's happening. They don't really have the stories. The bad news always travels faster than the good news. And so they would make all these assumptions, talk about how we're very risky as an investment and all these different things. But truly what was missing was narrative design. So I decided to create an organization and formalize it, of course, to help companies, not just VCs though, but VCs are like one of my core focus, but companies in general. So VCs, African startups, and governments really figure out their narrative. Like, what is really unique about you as a country? What do you stand for? Who are you? When I invest in your organization, what am I investing in a way that their citizens can understand, figure out how they can, send that communication or trickle that communication down to their citizens, but also export that communication to the global economy in a way that they can also open up doors for funding and things like that. So that's what I've been up to. If you really think about it, it's literally what I've been doing since, but for government and a new demography. So
Love it. I love
thank
it.
you very
I'm really
much.
excited about it, and
Me
I'm
too.
always a big supporter of whatever you do. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Before we round up, I like to play this game called If You Only Knew Questions.
Hey
And it's just quick
God.
questions, whatever comes to mind, and we'll wrap up. Okay. Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
I don't think I have a, but
Okay, that's fine. Who never fails to make you laugh?
partner, he's funny sometimes, even when he's not trying.
When do you feel most free?
Ooh, when do I feel most free? When I'm doing new things, like when I'm trying new things, especially things I suck at.
What era of history or what era in history would you have loved to experience?
Creation, I feel like it will answer so many questions because there's so much that is built on the premise of creation, and it would be just nice to be there and see and be like, oh, I told you so, we were wrong, you were right, da 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 da.
If you could talk to any animal and the animal could talk back to you, which animal would you like to
My
talk to?
cat.
Maybe talk to it more.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. And, sometimes I don't know what he's saying, doesn't know what I'm saying, but I feel like we understand each other once there's food.
When was the last time you were starstruck?
I think it's in the future.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
in the
It would
future. It hasn't
happen.
happened
It would
yet.
happen. Something on your bucket list?
Fly a plane.
Oh, that's on my bucket list as well.
Oh, let's do it next year.
We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it. I really want to. I really want to fly like a private plane,
And me too.
So thank you very much, Blessing. This has been really good. I mean, we could talk for hours
For
and there's so many
days. What
things
are
I
you
didn't
saying? Why
even
do you
touch
think
on.
hours?
But
Days.
I'm sure that we're going to bring you back at some point in the future. But thank you very much, Blessing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.